So it'll be a good January. Monetarily.
Yeah, the stuff they do.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Good evening. This meeting is being held in accordance with the public laws of 1975, Chapter 231. An adequate notice has been given in accordance with the Sunshine Law. Notice was published on December 7, 2016 in the Union County Local Source, the official newspaper of the Township of Springfield, and posted in the Annex Building on December 30th, 2016. Please join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Sam, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Monaco?
Here.
Mr. Hochstein?
Here.
Mr. Schnurr?
Here.
Mr. Cunningham? Absent. Mr. Poltrock? Absent. Ms. Cohen?
Here.
Vice Chair Greg Roth?
Here.
And Chairman Fonseca.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Before we get started with our first application, I understand that the RPG application, that there's been an agreement, and if the objector's attorney wants to come forward, please do so.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Before the meeting today, we met with RPG's applicant and their attorney, and our concern was that we didn't want traffic backing up in front of our client's property. By the way, for the record, Stephen Bilkowski from the law offices of Stephen Bilkowski. So during our discussion, RPG agreed to flip their ingress and egress in front of their building that they're proposing, which would allow, even if there was a couple of cars backed up on the highway, wouldn't block my client's entrance or exit from their property. So we're satisfied with that change, assuming the board, and I believe the engineer for the town has said that that would be acceptable. Assuming they make that change, we would withdraw our objection.
I had mentioned that you're dealing with Route 22, which is a state highway, so they would need to run that by and get approval from DOT. We've seen, which would have to go to anyway, just to get, even if they don't change their egress, ingress scenario, which, so we've seen that before on other applications that we've been involved with, where basically you're driving by the site, and then you see the site, so it's not like it's too late.
It's not the first entrance.
The second
it's the second
yes.
entrance. So the exit becomes the entrance. The entrance.
Right. So I mean, from an engineering standpoint, we have no objection to it, and if I've seen DOT accepted another application, so.
And it's actually, I think, accepted on another one of the applicants or another entity owned by applicant 2 buildings away, or maybe even
That's correct.
right next to it.
This is what I was going to mention, actually.
We're satisfied if the board thinks that change is acceptable. We'll withdraw our objection, and we have no problem with the application.
As long as the DOT doesn't have
Yes.
any issue with it, the board will not have any issue with it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for hearing us early.
You're very welcome.
Good night, everyone.
Take care. Happy holidays. All right, now with that being said, the RPG application will still be the 4th application. So there aren't any resolutions from last month. So we're going to move on to application 2017-18, which is H. Ryan Freundlich, 987 Chimney Ridge Road, block 3305, lot 3, and that's for a front yard variance, expanding a front portico. Yes. Let's start.
I guess he's not.
It's okay. Happens to me all the time.
Just making sure.
I guess the applicant is not here, and we can move to the next application.
Okay, moving right along. Application number 2 is 2017-19, Matthew Kirschner, 266 Milltown Road, block 2001, lot 19. That is for 2 side yard variances and lot coverage variance for a 2nd floor addition. Please come forward. There you are. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Hi, Mr. Kirshner, I will swear you in. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give and any evidence you present to the board is the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Can you please give your name and address for the record, spelling your last name?
Sure. Matthew Kirshner, Kirschner, 266 Milltown Road, Springfield.
Tell us what you want to do.
So I'm just extending up on top of my house. I'm not going any closer to the side borders than currently exist. The footprint won't change. Right now, the house is a cape. I'm gonna make it a full second story with an attic. That's what I'm looking to do. I have a picture of existing house right now, and then the proposed.
Okay, sir, we'll mark that as A1. For the picture, I'm just going to ask you a couple of quick questions.
Sure.
Did you take that?
My son did.
Okay, when did he take it?
Less than a week ago.
Okay, has it been altered in any way?
No.
Does it reflect the current condition of the property?
Yes.
Okay, we will accept that. We'll mark it as, I guess we'll mark the top as A1 and then the photo as A2.
Excuse me.
And A1, just for the record, is just an elevation, front
Right.
elevation. Okay.
Hold it up.
Okay, that's fine. In terms of any type of runoff from the addition, we don't have any issues with that, nothing I read.
There is a very, very minor increase in lot coverage of only 0.6%, which is totally insignificant. So there will be no impact whatsoever on drainage. This is a second floor addition, so there's no actual impervious coverage, additional impervious coverage. So we have no engineering issues on this.
What type of exterior materials are you going to be, obviously changing the entire outside?
Right.
What are you going to put on the house?
The exterior will be a combination of stone and then hardy plank.
Okay. Anybody on the board have any questions?
Can you just explain, go on the record as to what the variances are that you are asking for?
Sure, so the existing footprint of the house is already too close to both side property boundaries.
Setbacks.
So, yeah, the side setbacks. So I'm not changing that at all, but because I'm carrying off the second floor and putting a larger second floor, I understand that I need to apply for the variance.
So it's already a non-conforming property?
And there's no other variances except for you're just doing a vertical
That's
intensification
correct.
of the existing non-conforming condition?
Yes.
Anybody else on the board have any questions? I think that it would be a nice addition on your home. I'm sure your family and your wife will be happy. So with that, I'd like to ask for, is there anybody from the public that would like to be heard on this? Thank you. Okay. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve application 2017-19, Matthew Kirshner, 266 Milltown Road, Block 2001, Lot 19. And that's for two side variances and lot coverage variance for a second floor addition. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
May we have a roll call?
Sure. Mr. Roth?
Yes.
Mr. Monaco?
Yes.
Mr. Hochstein?
Yes.
Ms. Cohen?
Yes.
And Chairman Fonseca?
Yes.
Motion passes. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I missed Mr. Schnur. I apologize.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. How soon do you want to get started?
Early summer, once the snow and rain is passed.
Okay, fine. All right. I was going to ask you if you wanted to waive right of resolution, but if you're going to be waiting until, I guess, the weather gets better,
Right.
there's no issue. Okay. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Our next application is application 2017-20, Lawrence R. Pacifico, 36 Marcy Avenue, Block 110, Lot 6. That's for rear and side yard variances to rebuild the garage on an existing foundation. How you doing? You're gonna be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. You swear in the testimony you're about to give and any evidence you present to the board is the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Can you please give your name and address for the record, spelling your last name?
Sure. Lawrence R. Pacifico, Pacifico,
Address is 36 Marcy Avenue, Springfield, New Jersey.
Thank you.
So explain to us what you'd like to do, sir.
Basically, I'm replacing my garage that was damaged, leaning, so it has to be replaced. Putting the exact same garage back up. Hopefully, this one will be standing longer.
Are you making any larger, any taller, any wider?
No size changes at all. It's going to be on the exact same footprint that's there right now for the garage at the end of the driveway.
Do our professionals have any?
I reviewed this application. There is a garage and both side yard and rear yard next door to his garage, so it is not impacting the neighbors in any way. He wants to use the same foundation to cut the cost. He's using the same garage, so I really have no issues. There's no increase of impervious areas, and there's no engineering issues at all.
The materials that you're going to use for the exterior of the garage, they're going to match your home? What are you going to do with that?
It's going to be wood with hopefully siding, vinyl siding. Or
Is that like what your home is?
Yeah, the home is wood siding. It's wood panels. Probably gonna be the same, hopefully same color,
Okay.
same type of materials.
Are there any questions from the board?
I have a question. How close are you going to be to the nearest building on the adjoining property line?
The garage.
Are you going to?
Garage structure?
Yes.
The garage behind, I believe, is a foot from the property line, so I'll be 4. It's about, I think there's a 4 to 5 foot difference between where my garage was and the back, and the side's about 5 to 6 feet.
Okay. I just, because I know that there's rules about fire, that you just, if this gets approved, you just need to make sure from the town that you do your proper fire rating of the garage because of the buildings being in proximity to each other. There are some issues that you should know about.
Yeah, I believe my architect took that into consideration with the plans.
Well, see, and that would be checked when the inspections are being performed, correct?
Right.
All right, so that'll be handled. Are there any other questions from anybody on the board?
Just, I just want to be clear, you are gonna match the siding of the garage to your house?
Yes.
Anybody else? Is there anybody from the public that would like to be heard on this application? Okay, I think we can approve you to rebuild the garage, same size, with the sidings to match your home, etc. So I'd like to ask for an approval, or a motion to approve application 2017-20, Lawrence R. Pacifico, 36 Marcy Avenue, Block 110, Lot 6, for rear and side yard variances to rebuild garage on existing foundation. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve application 2017-20.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
May we have a roll call?
Sure. Mr. Schnur,
Yes.
Mr. Hochstein,
Yes.
Mr. Monaco,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. Roth,
Yes.
and Chairman Fonseca.
Yes,
Motion passed.
thank you. How soon do you want to get started?
Early 2018. So,
Okay, because you can write a resolution. Nobody has been here to challenge your application. You do so at your own risk. Once the resolution is passed, there's no issue whatsoever. So if you wanted to get a jump on it, you could. Otherwise, you just wait until the resolution is passed, which would be next, may not be till February.
Probably not until the 3rd Tuesday of February.
Right, so it wouldn't be until February, so that's up to you.
okay. If it's before February, then it's at my own risk?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so third week in February?
Well, that's when the resolution, that's when the next meeting will be held.
Okay.
So that's when the resolution will be approved.
Okay.
That's all right?
You want to wait?
So you want to wait?
You don't
Yeah.
have to.
You don't have to. So we're giving you the opportunity to commence work,
Right.
but we're just warning you that if someone complained, the resolution hasn't been approved yet.
Right.
So you proceed at your own, at your own risk.
Okay.
But as I mentioned, no one's been here to question anything. The likelihood is probably slim, so it's entirely up to you.
Okay. Do I have to inform if I'm going to start earlier, or?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You have to decide now.
Okay. I'll start earlier then.
All right, good. He's going to
Fine.
make his right. Okay.
Okay. So you'll see the engineering department, and you can get going.
Okay. Thank
Good
so
luck
much.
to you.
All right, have a good night. Thank you.
too.
I don't think they've come in.
No.
Okay, so our next application will be the continuance of application 2017-16, RPG LLC, 75 Route 22 East, Block 3801, Lot 6. Preliminary and final site plan with 2 bulk variances, a D6 variance for building height for a new health facility.
If you could speak into the microphone, Mr. Schnitzer, just for the record. Thank you.
My name is Erwin Schnitzer. I'm the attorney for the applicant. I had also filed an application for amended preliminary and final site plan application for Lot 8, which is the adjoining property, because we were going to remove 4 parking spaces from that lot, so the variance for the parking would change by a couple of spaces. So I had filed that application also, and I would like both applications to be heard simultaneously, if I might.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. As a practical matter, we've heard testimony from our engineer and from our architect. I understand that because of the renotice, and I believe my renotice was proper and the board has jurisdiction.
Yes.
All right. That we have to begin from, we have to start over again with the testimony. But since you've already heard it, I would like to offer the testimony of my engineer, Mr. Titus, and my architect, Mr. Weimer, in a more concise manner. If you have any, additional questions, they're here to answer it, but I'd like to go through it in a sort of abbreviated manner, if I may proceed.
Yes, you can.
And I would ask that, I guess we have to swear everybody in again? Or?
Yes.
Okay. So I'd like to swear in all my witnesses. We have Leland Titus, Blaze Weimer, Elizabeth Dolan, our traffic engineer, and Dan Block, our planner. And also just, there's a possibility I may ask Mr. Gagliotti say a few words. So I'd like all.
If you guys would all just come up, just so you can speak into the microphone. We'll swear you all in together, but then we will one by one just introduce yourselves for the record, okay? Everyone, please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give and any evidence you present to the board is the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Please state your name for the record and your address, spelling your last name, and we'll start with you, sir.
W. Leland Titus, Titus. My business address is 618 Somerset Street in North Plainfield, and I'm a professional engineer.
Thank you.
Blaze Weimer. I'm the principal of the Architects Alliance. My business address is 111 Mulberry Street, Suite 2Z, Newark, New Jersey. I will be testifying as a licensed architect.
Thank you. Could you spell your last name, sir?
W-E-I-M-E-R.
Okay, thank you.
Elizabeth Dolan, D-O-L-A-N, Dolan and Dean Consulting, 792 Chimney Rock Road in Martinsville, New Jersey, and I'll be testifying as the traffic engineer for the applicant.
Thank you.
Daniel Block, B-L-O-C-H, with the firm Mazer Consulting, 56 Frontage Road, Clinton, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Paul Gagliotti, G-A-G-L-I-O-T-I. I live at 22 Glenview Drive in Warren, New Jersey, and I'm the owner.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask Mr. Titus to take this
When they start testifying.
And Mr. Titus, you're a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey, and your license is currently in effect at full force. Is that so?
That's correct.
And will you give us a brief description of your educational background and your work history?
I have a BS in civil engineering from the University of Wisconsin, and I've been practicing site engineering for past 30 years.
And you've appeared before this board before as an expert witness, is that correct, in the field of civil engineering?
Yes, I have.
I'd ask the board to accept his qualifications.
We can accept.
Mr. Titus, you're familiar with the application, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
And you're familiar with the zoning for the site?
Yes, I am.
Will you please describe the application and the proposal?
The site is located south of Route 22 eastbound. The property generally runs north and south. The property is approximately 425 feet deep and 200 feet wide. The proposal is to construct a two-story building that would be used for fitness purposes. It would be 24-hour fitness. The footprint is about 19,814 square feet, and it would be 2 stories. There's 135 parking spaces on the site, and there's also a cross connection to the property to the east, which has additional parking.
And in order to make that cross connection, some parking spaces on Lot 8 had to be removed?
There would be 4 spaces that would be eliminated on Lot 8, and the general drainage patterns that are on Lot 8 would be maintained.
Okay, continue, please.
As was previously mentioned by the attorney, we're going to change the entrance and the exit on the site. The entrance was previously on the westerly side of the property, and the exit was on the easterly side. We're going to switch that, and the entrance is going to be on the easterly side, and the exit's going to be on the westerly side. There's circulation around the building and through the parking lot. There's 3 aisles in front of the building, 1 aisle behind the building. There's parking on the westerly side out near the front of the building near Route 22, and there's additional parking along the easterly side adjacent to the building and adjacent to the building on Lot 7.
Okay, could you describe what variances you are aware of for this project?
The site was previously developed as a motel, and the motel's subsequently been raised between the previous testimony at the other meetings. So those variances that were existing, there were several that were eliminated. The variances that are required is lot coverage. It would be 88.3% proposed, where 70% is allowed.
I think that was 60, based on a testimony, Mr. Michaels, they changed that ordinance. Wasn't that 63%? I'm not quite sure. I believe that may have been, all right, but go ahead, continue.
And there's also a variance for building height that would be required.
Okay. Could you describe explain the drainage for the site?
The site generally slopes in a southerly direction, and presently the flow from the site goes across the site, and then it drains onto the adjacent property on Lot 8. Lot 10 acts as a diversion that diverts the water onto Lot 8. And that general pattern would be maintained, and it would be enhanced through drainage pipes that are around the parking lot. But the primary drainage is going to be through pervious pavement. This is a pavement that allows the stormwater to pass through the pavement into the soil, which is rather sandy. It's almost like there's nothing there. It just lets the water run right into the soil. The pervious pavement also filters out any particulate matter that is that gets washed into the parking lot, and then periodically the site would have to be vacuumed, and that would remove the particulate matter from the site.
Could you explain the lighting for the site? You're referring, you have on the easel what I believe we marked as A1 in evidence. Could you just, that's your striping?
That's the striping plan, which is sheet 4 of 12 of the plan set.
Okay, that's been marked A1.
We'll mark it again as A1.
I did. I changed the date to today's date. I've marked all the exhibits so far.
Okay, excellent.
The lighting and landscaping plans are sheet 5 of the plan sets. And we're proposing 18-foot high LED lights throughout the parking lot. There's some quadruple lights near the first bay in the parking, which is near inlet 8 and near inlet 12. And then there's also some other lights around the perimeter of the parking in the islands on the west and on the east. And there's additional lights around the perimeter of the parking to the back and around the sides. The engineer or the planner, I'm not sure which, has asked for additional lighting west of the building in this driveway, and we agreed at the last meeting that we would do that. And they also asked for a shield on the lights adjacent to Route 22, and we've agreed to do that also.
Okay, and the circulation of the vehicles, I believe you already went through that?
I did briefly, yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have anything to add as far as circulation is concerned?
No.
Okay. How about...
oh, they did ask for, in the comments, they asked for turning templates for fire access, and we agreed that we would do that and provide that
Very well.
Subsequently.
Could you describe the proposed landscaping for the site?
We're proposing some landscaping in the islands, which would be the dwarf junipers, and there would additionally be some dogwoods that we're proposing around the site, and we're also proposing some deer-resistant arborvitae along the back. There would be 9 Coosa dogwoods that we would be proposing around the site, 10 of the deer-resistant arborvitaes, and 80 dwarf junipers. Again, there was a comment asking us to provide some more landscaping, and we've agreed to do that.
Right. And could you describe the signage for the site?
I think I'd like to defer that to the architect.
Very well.
The site sign. There's going to be directional signs around the property, and the one-way signs and the do not enter signs would be reversed to be appropriate with the new circulation pattern. Also, the traffic arrows would be altered to reflect the new traffic circulation pattern.
Do you have any additional comments you would like to add?
No, I don't.
That's the engineer's testimony, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, yes. Okay, that's fine. Does anybody have any questions for the engineer?
I just have a technical question for our board attorney. When we've granted a variance for Lot 9 based on certain parking, as part of this application, are we able to change the parking of Lot 9 by eliminating parking spots? How does that work?
Mr. Hochstein, that's, we've all referred to it improperly as Lot 9. It's Lot 8. That's the adjacent property. It's
Okay.
Lot 8. And I did file an application for amended preliminary and final site plan application.
With those
to-
changes?
To take care of the changes.
I was just wondering how
Yes.
that works.
And that will include that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Anything else? I'm sorry.
Maybe. Are there any other questions from the board for the engineer? We're going to reserve the anybody in the audience to speak after we've heard all testimony.
Okay.
So we can continue.
All right, my next witness will be Mr. Weimer. Mr. Weimer, you're a licensed architect of the state of New Jersey, and your license is currently in full force in effect. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Could you give us a brief resume of your educational background and work history?
I have a Bachelor's of Architecture from Virginia Tech. I have been licensed to practice architecture since 1986. I am the principal of the Architects Alliance, architectural firm practicing in Newark. I have been the principal of that firm or its predecessor since 1988.
And you've testified before this board before, have you not?
I have.
I would ask the board to accept his qualifications as an expert witness in the field of architecture.
He's accepted. Thank you.
Mr. Weimer, we've marked as exhibits A2 through A7 dated today various exhibits that you had previously referred to. Could you go through them and briefly tell us what they are and what the variances are that we require insofar as your knowledge is concerned?
Sure. Shall I first one at a time?
Yes, one at a time.
Exhibit A2 is a three-dimensional perspective rendering of the front elevation of the building.
May I have it? And these elevations or these exhibits that we're showing that show the 24-hour fitness logo, these are from prototypes that you had received from 24-hour fitness, showing what type of building they wanted on the location?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
This is A2 if you'd like to pass it around, or I'll hold it. Everybody see it? Anybody want to take a closer look? I'll pass it to you.
Nope, that's good.
Okay. Go ahead, and could you?
Exhibit A3 is an elevation drawing. It's the north and east elevation of the building rendered in color. Exhibit A4, the south and west elevations of the building rendered in color. Exhibit A5, the first floor plan rendered in color. Exhibit A6, the second floor plan rendered in color. Exhibit A7, an exhibit provided by 24-Hour Fitness, illustrating actual photographs from some of their recently constructed facilities.
All right, before we proceed, I just want to confirm, I don't think we did this, Mr. Titus, this property is located in a HC zone, is that correct? That's correct. Okay. Getting to some of the variances that are required for this application, a use variance for the roof height of the building. In the HC zone, permitted is 40 feet, proposed is 45.6 feet. Could you explain that particular variance?
Right. We have, we're requesting a D variance based on the height of the structure. We have the height of the roof is measured based on the highest roof, which is on this roof over the basketball court at the second floor, which measures 44 feet 4 inches above the finished floor, or 45'6" above average grade. Since average grade slopes from front to back on the property, we would lose about a 1'2", or increase the actual height of the building as referenced from average grade by about 1'2". We have the cornice of the building, which is relatively steep, tall, but it's stepped. In effect, the tallest part of it is a center marquee at the front facade, which measures 58'4", and it steps down then to heights of 51 feet, 46'6", and 41'6". The actual roof height is closer to being in conformance with the ordinance. Essentially, the ordinance will allow us 40 feet for the roof and an additional 4 feet for the parapet height. The heights that we present are greater than 10% or 10 feet above the maximum height that's permitted in that zone, and therefore we're requesting a variance.
What about the parapet walls? The parapet walls allowed are 4 feet, ours are greater than 4 feet. You testified that the tallest one is 58.4 feet, and then they step down, is that correct?
That is correct.
And one of the reasons for a parapet wall above 4 feet high by the roof line was to shield, I think we had discussed shielding the heating and ventilating systems on the roof.
We have, based on their prototype, we anticipate a series of air handling units up on the roof, as well as a very large dehumidification system for their pool. They also typically run ductwork across the roof, so the parapet walls help to shield some of the mechanical units from view.
Right. And the freestanding sign within the Route 22 setback, the height permitted is 22 feet. Ours is proposed to be 27 feet. Could you discuss that for a couple of minutes?
Yes, if we want to look at, let's see. I guess we don't have that illustrated. It's on our drawings, but not illustrated in color. Our pylon sign is proposed to match corporate standards, which would be a 14 by 14 sign, proposed to be 27 feet in height. The maximum sign area permitted under our ordinance is 75 feet. We are requesting a sign area of 196 feet.
And how would those two requests for the sign area and the sign height compare with existing signs?
If I may, I'd like to enter another exhibit, which are photographs that I took of the signs at the existing 24-hour fitness and at the Colonial Motel, which is the site which we're proposing to develop. Yes.
I'd like to ask you some questions about the photographs.
Yes.
Okay. You said you took them. When did you take them?
Yes, I did. Can I see that? Photograph taken on October 12th, 2017.
Okay. Have they been altered in any way?
No.
And do they depict the current conditions of the signs?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Thank you. We'll mark those collectively, I guess, as A8.
Just let me have one. Okay, there's enough copies to pass around. The sign at the Colonial Motel, we'll see first. Now that's the site that we are developing. That is a series of two signs and a base. The upper sign panel is 21 feet wide by 11 feet tall. The lower sign panel, 12.5 feet wide by 3.5 feet tall, combined for a sign area of 275 feet. If we look at the sign that exists now at 24-Hour Fitness. Simple, single monopole pylon sign. That sign panel measures 21 feet wide by 10 feet tall. It has a sign area of 210 feet. It's a double-sided, internally illuminated sign. If we compare that, both signs are considerably larger than what we're proposing. Again, we're proposing slightly under 200 feet of sign area and area, sizes of approximately 14 by 14.
Now, how about the wall signs? One wall sign is allowed, we propose 3 wall signs. Height of the wall signs allowed is 5 feet, proposed 2 12 feet high and 1 10 feet high.
That's correct. Along Route 22, their corporate logo is an oval sign, about approximately 160 square feet, 12 feet high by 13 and approximately 13'4" wide. Same sign, very similar, would be on the side of the building, facing west, and a slightly smaller sign on the east-facing facade.
How far is this building set back from Route 22?
The building sets back approximately 200 feet from the roadway. We'd like to enhance the signage just for visibility.
Okay. Is there any other information you'd like to supply the board at this time?
No, I think at this point, other than we'll acknowledge on the record that we have received the correspondence from Robert Michaels, the township planner, dated 9/15/17, and the correspondence from Keller and Kirkpatrick, dated September 13th, 2017.
Very well. I have no further questions of this witness.
I guess it was our September meeting, we were talking about the sign, and I'm looking at the architectural plan. It says sheet A1, it's dated August 31st of this year. And it's signed by, I think that's your signature on September 8th of this year. And this is the particular sorry.
Number 4.
This is the particular picture, which, this one right here, number 4. How did we go from that to this? And in addition to that, I thought at the September meeting that, these are very cumbersome, that this was gonna be eliminated and it was gonna be that.
Okay, just for clarification, we're not proposing any change in the signage. The sign that's represented in that last exhibit is the existing sign at the 24-Hour Fitness, which is on the adjacent parcel.
That's this.
It is not what we're proposing to build. The testimony
build this one.
is there's the 14 by 14
But that's,
sign.
I remember in that
Yes.
meeting that I had asked, and you said you were gonna find out.
What the sign area would be if in fact we eliminated the border from that
Exactly,
sign.
so-
96 feet is what it would be. I think the testimony that I'm attempting to present tonight is that we are less, in size, we are smaller than both the existing sign on the site and the existing sign on the adjacent site, which is intended for the same use. We'd prefer to keep the rectangular sign only because it's simpler to build and it's the corporate standard. At your request, we did take a look at that, and that same 14 by 14 sign, the logo area alone, would be 96 square feet.
Mr. Chairman, this is the existing sign on 24-Hour Fitness. That's page 2 of 8.
That's the sign that's on the current property.
Right.
On the property next door.
That's on the property now, yes.
So you want to use the same sign?
No.
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 No, we do not. We're
wanna
just
take that
presenting,
You want to take this sign, you want to take this one down.
Well,
not our property.
It's not our property,
When
that's,
you, if the building is built, is this the sign that you're proposing?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
What is the square footage of that sign again?
196 square feet,
And by eliminating the area around it?
96.
What is our, what is,
75 is your ordinance.
okay, so it's a lot closer to the.
How far is the building off the road?
Approximately 200 feet back.
If it's 200 feet or so off the road, a sign on the side of the building, what's the visibility of that really? What's the purpose of that?
Again, you don't ever see these buildings head-on. Will you see it? You'll certainly see it from adjacent parcels. If you're shopping across the street, would you see it maybe at 65 miles an hour as you drive down the highway? No.
maybe, I
But,
think Mr. Gagliotti, who owns several properties in a location, may be able to tell us a little information about that, if we could just ask him.
Yeah, right now, we have a building where we have Sky Zone on the adjacent property. And we have the similar situation where you have signs at the top of the building. And if you go down Route 22, if you're headed westbound, it stands out right through the trees. You could see Sky Zone sign, basically without even seeing the pylon sign. You could see the building sign. And that building's set back more than 200 feet. So with the side signs, they're really important. They don't sound that way, but trust me, they're super important. When you're westbound and your eye glances over to the eastbound side, sometimes you miss the pylon, but you see those side signs. We try to locate them on most of our buildings. If you see PM Pediatrics up the road a little ways, we have the same condition where we have a side sign. That sign is more visible than the pylon sign. So, you know, most of the properties we have where we can expose a sign to the side of the building, we try to do so because it's pretty effective when you're headed in the opposite direction.
Okay.
Bear in mind also that we're requesting a building which is slightly taller than most buildings adjacent to it, and certainly taller than the building east of it, which is where the Kinko's is located. So we will be able to see signs over the top of the building from a distance.
Any other questions from anybody on the board? Okay.
Elizabeth Dolan will be my next witness. And just before Ms. Dolan starts, I just wanted to advise the board that on the adjacent Lot 8, the original approval was for 244 parking spaces. When we came in with an amendment to demolish the rear building, we picked up 2 spaces, so that became 246 spaces. With this application, we're asking the board to accept the removal of 4 spaces to have the cross-access aisle. So that would make 242 spaces. In reality, it's 2 spaces less than what was originally approved. So with that, having said that, Ms. Dolan, you're a licensed civil engineer of the state of New Jersey?
Yes,
And when did you become so licensed?
1992.
And could you give us a brief resume of your educational background and work history?
Yes, I have a Bachelor of Science degree in civil engineering from Rutgers University. I have been focusing in the areas of traffic and transportation engineering for over 30 years. I'm a member of the Institute of Transportation Engineers and the American Society of Civil Engineers, and through the course of my experience, I've had the opportunity to prepare many traffic and parking studies, DOT applications. I've presented testimony in over 250 municipalities. I have been here, but it's been a few years. In all cases, I have been accepted as an expert in traffic engineering, and I've also had the opportunity to review traffic, parking, and DOT aspects of land use applications for many boards throughout New Jersey.
I would ask that the board accept Ms. Dolan's qualifications as a licensed civil engineer specializing in transportation engineering.
Yes.
We'll accept her credentials.
Thank you.
Ms. Dolan, you're familiar with this application?
Yes.
And you're familiar with the cross-access agreement between Lot 6 and
Yes.
Lot 8? And could you tell us what your opinion is as far as the parking for this site and the cross-parking agreement is concerned?
Certainly, the cross-access and cross-parking easement is beneficial from a traffic engineering perspective and from a site circulation perspective, because the combination of uses that we have now work very well together in terms of people coming for, I'll say, one-stop shopping. If for example, the parents are dropping the kids at the Sky Zone, they may also grab a bite to eat. And so there's that shared aspect, and instead of having to go back out on 22 and then into the adjoining property, we have this cross-access that allows ease of circulation between the different users on lots, I guess, 6, 7, and 8. From a parking perspective, the evolution of Lot 8 is, as we've said, this Sky Zone, which is a little bit different type of land use and doesn't have quite the parking demand that a typical retail use would have. There was a study by McDonough & Ray, another traffic engineering consulting firm in New Jersey. The ratio is about 2 spaces per 1,000 square feet for Sky Zone versus 4 per 1,000 for retail. So right away, that brings down the parking need for Sky Zone, and also that peaks on weekends, typically on Friday nights after 7, 8 o'clock, and Saturday afternoons. The proposed, it's just under 39,000 square foot health club requires 254 spaces. We've got 135 proposed on the subject property. Immediately adjacent and with the cross-access connection is the parking on what would be essentially the rear side of the building on Lot 8, and that's the Sky Zone and the daycare building. The main entrances for those uses are actually on the east side of that building on Lot 8. And so the loading and overflow parking is immediately adjacent to the proposed health club. And there's 74 spaces there to accommodate what would be required by variance. So the health club requires 254 spaces. We have 135 on site, and that's a deficit of about 119. If you look at some of the numbers published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, they would say the health club really only needs about 200. That brings the deficit down to 65. And as I said, right across the property line, there are 74 spaces readily accessible and within reasonable walking distance to support any additional demand that the health club may have. So it's a good, as I said, combination of uses from a shared parking concept, because again, Sky Zone is reaching its maximum demand Friday night and midday Saturday. The healthcare or the health club demand is maximized on evenings 7, 8 o'clock. And so the opportunity to share parking works with these uses because they're not generating demand, maximum demand, at the same time of the day or during the week.
Do you have anything else to add?
DOT, we talked about earlier.
Right.
We are not proposing any physical modifications to the driveways, so we should not have to obtain an access permit. And we are also providing, through this cross-access, the ability to get out to Diamond Road. So that's considered alternative access, and it's a sort of a plus from DOT's perspective. And again, sharing the parking and not forcing the traffic back out onto 22, all of those things are favorable from NJDOT's perspective. And I agree with your engineer that we can get confirmation that a permit is not required for what we are proposing, which is essentially the same access configuration as exists at that small retail center with the blinds to go and Kinko's right adjacent to us. I think that's lot 7.
I have no further questions.
Earlier, the objector talked about changing the egress, the entrances, swapping them back and forth. And we were told that that has to go through DOT and so forth. You want to comment on that?
Right. The driveways, I believe, have historically been two-way driveways. And what we're proposing is that the entrance be at the eastern driveway, and that the exit be at the western driveway. So as related to the people who are concerned, the next door neighbor, that pushes the entrance movement further away from their access and pretty much assures that there won't be any impact to their driveway operation. So we're not proposing any physical changes, but we will have to take it to DOT for a confirmation that no new permit is required.
Can I ask a question regarding that? Since you're the traffic expert, when somebody's coming out at the same time that somebody's slowing down to come in, is that less safe?
It's not less safe, and actually the access code allows driveways to be only 24 feet apart. So you could have successive ingress and egress driveways 24 feet apart. The goal of the access code and NJDOT now is to limit the number of driveways, to provide for this interconnection, and also to keep the driveways spaced greater than that 24. So certainly there's going to be some weaving, people changing lanes or going into and out of the different driveways. That's what happens on Route 22. But as DOT gets the opportunity through redevelopment, they are limiting driveways and encouraging the shared access. So yes, there's weaving, and we're trying to, as we redevelop, minimize that. But this driveway is fully in compliance, or these driveways are in compliance with the spacing the DOT mandates.
But is it less, is it less safe to be going out at the same time that somebody's slowing down to come in?
I can't say that it's less safe, because the driveways, you want them to be defined, you want them to have the right width and radii to accommodate those movements without hesitation on the state highway. And the way these driveways are, I believe that they will not have any impact to the drivers. They're not going to create hesitation. And so as long as there's ample sight distance and appropriate geometry, it is a safe design.
Anyone on the board have any other questions?
I have some more questions about the traffic.
Sure.
Can you talk, we had earlier, there was somebody that testified the fact that the adjacent properties should be considered like as a compound. Can you talk about the aggregate parking of the compound?
I guess that would be, I don't know whether can we use that aerial maybe?
Should we mark that as A9? I'll mark that as A9.
If you could describe what it is.
This is your exhibit, right? That's okay.
It's my understanding that this is It's my understanding that this is an aerial map of the subject property, which is Lot 6, the adjacent property, which is Lot 8 in Block 3801. So it's this property and this property, which is our property.
And so this is an aerial exhibit prepared by Mazer Consulting. And I think if the question I understand correctly is, you use the word compound, right, or a campus or a shopping center. The idea is that by providing interconnection with the adjoining properties, we can travel between those properties. They share access, they share access, and they share parking and circulation. So you can then treat all of those lots together as a unified group or as a shopping center. And so we have a bunch of different uses on these different lots. They are interconnected, And so customers, parents, they can travel from use to use without having to go back out onto Route 22. So from a circulation perspective, it allows people to travel between the different uses without going back onto 22. From DOT's perspective, it reduces the driveway volume, the entrance and exit movements, and so it has a benefit to the state highway system. In this case also, Lot 6, through the cross-access and circulation with joining Lot 8, will have the ability to get to Diamond Road. And that's just another relief valve, but certainly that interconnection allows that alternative access that Lot 6 wouldn't otherwise have.
So if you're going through that slot where you're taking out the parking spots?
Over in here, I guess, yeah.
You're coming through. Can you talk about the sight lines? Like if somebody's coming through and somebody's coming down the other way, is that safe to circulate between the properties with, you know, taking out 2 or 3 spots?
The way Mr. Titus has it on his plans, he's got some island areas on either side of that cross connection, so there wouldn't be parking right up against that drive aisle. And otherwise, it would function and be designed and constructed just like a conventional connector aisle within a parking lot. So it would have sight lines and certainly would have to maintain sight lines, no plantings or anything in the area. But there is an island treatment on either side to make sure we've got a little visibility as you're coming through.
Your ordinance requires these access aisles to be 24 feet in width, and I believe, Mr. Titus, they all are 24 feet in width? That's right. So they comply with your ordinance.
And one last question that I have. You talked about the Sky Zone and the demand for parking. If let's say for some reason Sky Zone leaves, how does that work if another higher intensive use comes in that's the same, you know, how does that work with zoning and the use of the parking if somebody comes in?
Let me, just as an aside, I hadn't been to this property, and I decided to take a look at it a couple weeks ago. And I have to tell you, when I went into the back of that property to look at that Sky Zone and Kitty Academy building, it is quite an impressive building. And if you go inside it and see the amount of work that Sky Zone has done to the interior of that building, I don't think they're going to be leaving soon. They have a substantial investment in that property that is, I believe it's at least a couple $1 million. And we have a long-term lease with them.
If a new tenant came in, they'd have to come in before the board for approval, and if it's a different use that was more intensive for parking, they'd have to be addressed at the time.
Yeah. Sky Zone's on. Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
So lot 8, how many proposed parking spaces are there?
There's 244 spaces on Lot 8 with the removal, 246, removing 4, 242.
And what was required on lot 8?
Lot 8, according to the shopping center criteria, 231 were required. We provided 244, so we had a surplus. And I'm repeating from the testimony of Mr. Dean that I have here way back when we came in for the approval before this board for that property. Shopping center, 4 spots per 1,000 square feet. So we had a surplus of 13. Now, using the same criteria, we have a surplus of 11.
And then 135 are proposed on the
right, where
the subject property.
254
Right.
are required.
Correct.
And your peak calculations, you said in the evenings, is that weekdays? What happens on weekends? Is that a peak time for, I know for like Sky Zone, they have birthday parties, there's lots of kids there, and then on weekends, a lot of people, that's their time to go work out at a gym.
Right, so on the weekends, that's when we found the max Sky Zone required parking. And at that time, the Kitty Academy is closed. So there's no parking demand there. And the parking demands typically on Saturday or Sunday at the health club are not quite as high as they are on the weekday evenings, But again, there's those 74 spaces on the Sky Zone, Kitty Academy, call it the delivery side of the building, that whereas the main entrances are on the other side, the east side of the Sky Zone building.
Mr. Chairman?
If you went right in back at Kinko's, that would be in the back of the Sky Zone building. You'd have to go all the way, and it's a big building, all the way in the front where their main entrance is.
My understanding on the Lot 8 site that you needed a variance, that the total required was 354 and you're at 251.
That is because this ordinance, the Springfield ordinances, takes each use and provides a separate parking requirement for each use. Mr. Dean testified that according to the Institute for Transportation Engineers, and your ordinance defines a shopping center, and if it defines a shopping center which would be Lot 8, it complies with your definition of a shopping center. If you give me a moment, I have that definition here. But that requirement is 4 spaces per 1,000 square feet, and he said that is based on the information from the Institute of Transportation Engineers, and he felt that the definition of parking as a shopping center was more in line with the use that was being made of the property, and therefore the ordinances in Springfield, although requiring it separate parking for each unit, really was sort of misguided.
I don't disagree with that, but the board, it was a variance that you requested, the board granted the variance.
Yes.
But it was a variance and about 100 spaces deficient. That I'm just, you know.
Well, it was deficient if you use your ordinance's definition of parking for each individual use, but if you use Mr. Dean's definition of a shopping center and parking required for the shopping center, we had a surplus. Your ordinance defines a shopping center as one or more buildings or parts thereof designed as a unit to be occupied by 2 or more separate retail sales and or service uses constructed as an integrated and cohesively planned development, which I believe what we have on Lot 8 complies with that. Taking that one step further, if that's a shopping center, and with the Institute of Transportation Engineers defines the spaces required for a shopping center, and I believe Ms. Dean will confirm what I'm saying, that at 4 spots per 1,000 square feet, 231 would be what would be required.
And yes, that is the ITE definition, as well as the recognized ratio is 4 per 1,000.
So I ask a question. So in your opinion, the Lot 8 is there's a shared parking, so to speak, going on in Lot 8 because of the shopping center nature of it.
That's correct.
So now we're taking, and you still feel comfortable that we're taking that, and now we're adding the health club lot to this, and we're now looking for more shared parking.
Well, I feel comfortable with that because of the Sky Zone and the lower parking ratio that they require. Even at their busiest times, it's at about 2 per 1,000, which is half of the shopping center ratio. So it's, from my perspective, a good combination of uses for shared parking.
Okay.
And the, this may not be a question for you, the overflow parking agreement, I don't know what lot Kinko's is that 7?
That's
Or-
7.
It's not with Lot 7, it's
It is-
between
okay.
the owner of Lot 6 and Lot 8.
Which
But
would
Lot
be-
7 was notified because some cars may go over Lot 7 in order to get to Lot 8.
Right.
Just wanted them to know also.
Right, I'm focusing on parking. So when you
Yes.
say that overflow parking, if we're at max, let's say at the health club, you're gonna push them to the east. I don't know if this is a question for you, it might be for the engineer, but you're looking to push them towards the Kinko, not the Kinko, I'm sorry, the KinderCare
Which would
parking
be
area.
on this lot, right.
Is there sufficient lighting for people to travel back and forth to the health facility if they're parking there?
The lighting on that site is similar to the light on this site. There is lighting.
How many, sorry, how many spots are there for the KinderCare?
Kitty Academy,
I don't know how many, well, typically, they max out at somewhere around 30, 35 spaces, but the spaces that are available, or I'll say most probably useful for them, would be, I'll say, to the southeasterly portion of the building on Lot 8, and there's 29, 37, 43 spaces in close proximity to the Kitty Academy. So that's a pretty comfortable supply for that use.
And so, if I may, how many spots, so the variance for the 24-hour fitness is supposed to have how many spots?
I'm sorry, for the fitness?
Fitness center is supposed to have how many?
Is 254.
Okay, and there's 135.
135.
Okay. Okay, so then, and how many spots are there for the Sky Zone?
Well, again, there's no assigned spaces, but I'll say in close proximity to their main entrance, there's a sort of a triangular parking field of 27, 36, 47, it's hard to see, 47, and another, so 65, 70 spaces sort of in the, I'll say, most convenient area for their entrance.
I might also add that you really don't count the parking spaces for a daycare center, Kitty Academy, in the calculation of parking. And I believe
Yeah, I think that my issue, though, is that whether we're counting for the calculation or not, you're counting it for overflow. So effectively, it becomes
but they
more.
exist, but
It
they're
does,
not.
right, but just now it's a matter of getting to, if you take the 43 spots which are available for the kiddie care, then you're short on the other building for the Sky Zone, right? That, I mean, if you know, Art, you said it was supposed to be a bigger number, right? It was, there was a variance for that as well.
There was, but you know,
Right.
it testified that treating it like a
Right.
shopping center. they didn't need-
I'm just
Right,
thinking about, you know, you go to these places and there's, you know, somebody's having a birthday party, you know, there's a lot of different kids that are going, there's a ton of cars, and, you know, so that one's short. This one's considerably short on parking.
But let's not forget, there's another 74 spaces on the west side of that building, and the Kitty Academy.
Which building are you referring to?
The Sky Zone and Kitty Academy building on the westerly side of that Lot 8, which is at the top of A1. There's 74 spaces that are proximate to the proposed healthcare. So it's on the east side of the Kitty Academy and Sky building where there's roughly 70 in closer proximity to the Sky Zone door, and a number about 43 in the southeasterly portion of that, that building or parking lot. But the Sky Zone isn't going to be generating much demand when Kitty Academy is, and Kitty Academy is going to be closed when you're going to have the birthday parties or the Saturday afternoon events at Sky Zone. So again, we sort of have the parking for each of the uses, but we're not expecting them to max out at the same time just because of the type of uses that are on the site.
Kitty Academy hours, 9 to 5, 9 to 6. So from 8:45 to 9 is the drop-off for the kids, and then they're picked up at the end of the day. So the usage times are small bursts of usage.
Right, and then after...
Only spaces that are used probably during the day are for the teachers and the people who work there.
So it's a much lower demand, right.
Now, Sky Zone is in the evenings, kids after school in the evenings, or for parties during the day on the weekends. But isn't the key demand, you said it's 7 to 8 at night, key demand for a gym first thing in the morning at 5 to 7 o'clock?
There is, yeah, there's that too. It's not quite as high. There's a table that the Institute of Transportation Engineers provides, and they give you an hour-by-hour breakdown, and it's that 7 to 8, 6 to 8 p.m. where you're reaching your 100% demand for a health club.
Okay, so that's going to coincide with Sky Zone on Fridays and, on Fridays, really?
On Fridays.
On Fridays.
Yeah. And again, by that time, Kiddie Academy is closed.
They're closed.
Right.
There's nobody there.
What?
Hmm?
It's a daycare, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
They're
Mhm.
closed at 5 o'clock.
They're closed by
They
6
close at
o'clock.
5? It's not 7 to 7? Okay.
And only open 5 days, no holidays.
Art, do you want to bring up anything from your revised letter of November 29th?
I don't. We have quite a few comments. Mr. Titus said, testified that it would take care of the comments in our letter. So I think if, depending on where the board's going with this, that ought to be a condition. And we had revised our letter. The September 13th letter was revised to November 29th. Just a couple of minor comments, nothing that really added. It was more just clarifying a few things on the plan. So no, I mean, we had questioned, yes, actually there's one. We brought up the fence in the rear of the property is in disrepair. I don't know if that was, any testimony was given that would be replaced. It would be, okay. Applicant's shaking his head, yes. We brought up, and Mr. Michaels as well, lighting, landscaping needed to be augmented. Then we had some comments on the drainage. So nothing really in addition to what we had in our letter.
Does our planner have any comments right now?
Just a couple minor ones. My name is Victor Vinegar. I'm filling in for Bob Michaels tonight. Just a question quickly with Betsy Dolan. Right now, the applicant is proposing the sign, the pylon sign there, but if we're going to do ingress at that driveway and egress at that driveway, would it be better off to have this pylon sign move closer to the ingress driveway?
Might be. I think that's probably a good move. Yeah.
Yeah, because they do that now, I think, at the Autoland.
They do that at Autoland now, and I use the Autoland, and that identifies the driveway because they have ingress to Autoland, and then they have an egress in a similar fashion what they're proposing here. And I think identification for safety, it's better to move the pylon sign closer to the driveway, the actual physical driveway.
I agree with that also because it'll give it better visibility to the east, to move it away from the clutter that's to the west. I think that's a good idea.
And this, Art would work with the site engineer to maybe make monument sign here saying exit only, so that's identified via monument sign. And then another monument sign there say entrance only, besides the pylon sign. So I just wanted to get
I
clarification.
like that. Yeah.
So, okay, so that, and I guess the site engineer has already agreed to fill in some of the landscaping, and instead of maybe keeping this all grass in the front, maybe have creepers or something low maintenance, so a little bit more landscaping in the front to offset that. There's some gaps in the lighting. That's less than half a foot candle in these areas, especially by the front entrance to the building. So I think working with the architect, if they do scones on the building or something else, to add some more lighting at the entrance to build up the foot candles, because there's some gaps there. But the site engineer has agreed already to add to the lighting to offset some of the gaps and to add additional landscaping to the plan. So that's about it. And maybe if the site engineer, maybe if he raises the poles a little bit, instead of 18 to maybe 20 to 22 feet, you might get better coverage. And there
I
are,
have no problem with that. Where is no problem with that?
oh, you have an ordinance on the?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, the height.
I believe the height has.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, but that,
But are the lights that you're proposing the new ones that are going straight down,
Yes.
more than the ones that go sideways?
Like the LED.
So a couple feet might not really matter that much on the spread, it would matter on the,
The client would like it, I like it, planner would like it, but that would be another variance. I have no problem increasing it to 22 feet or so.
Not sure if you want to
I'll leave it to-
entertain that
yeah.
point, because you've got a visible site on 22, start requesting, allowing that variance, you're gonna, if you want to open it up to other sites, I mean, if you need another sign, you need another light, you need another light, it's, I think at the end of the day, it's.
okay.
yeah, I'll retract that statement.
I have a question. What is the specific use category of the Sky Zone? What is that considered? Is it
The retail, is it?
entertainment?
Is it retail, I'm not sure what it really, yeah, but what is it, I guess it's.
So
type of
if-
retail.
Entertainment is that's a very
Because a lot of this
big, there's a,
the
you can
question
throw a
I
lot
have.
into that
Sky Zone is an assembly use by the building code. By the ordinance, it's considered retail, by our ordinance.
Okay, so
What actually
getting,
happens there?
so getting back to
You
my,
have no idea what Sky Zone is?
Zero.
All right, so I have kids, younger kids. It's
I don't.
it's a trampoline park. Kids absolutely, my kids go nuts over it, so
so
they can't wait for it to open.
Well, I got
getting
the
back to
H.
my original question, if another tenant comes in, that's a retail, whatever use it is, where a lot of testimony was about the specific to the Sky Zone use, but if another tenant came in there, how do we as a town, do we have to approve a different tenant as a variance, or just, how does that work?
Well, it depends upon what it is, the nature of.
If it's still retail,
business.
but it's a very popular, is that gonna affect the parking in all this testimony if it's
Well,
different?
if it were a restaurant, I mean, obviously that's gonna have its own
I was wondering if that's gonna be an issue.
I think this board took jurisdiction of the site, I think if another, and you can put that as a condition, I believe, you can ask, Kevin.
Have you ever been into it? That's what it looks like
that-
inside.
I've been in it.
You can't put a,
And if I could just add one other thing, just if you visit the site, you'll get a better picture of some of the frustration we're feeling on our end.
Okay.
The building for Sky Zone and Kitty Academy is probably 500 to 600 feet long. There's no way to get from the eastbound side to the westbound side without walking around the building. In fact, Kitty Academy fences off their playground with alarmed panic bars on their fences. So even their staff is forced to walk around the building. So the parking spaces in the rear become almost unused. You literally have a city block to walk to get to the eastbound side of the parking. So they will be grossly, the 78 spaces will be grossly underutilized at that site. I think the overflow becomes welcome. Otherwise, we're going to see those spaces unused.
May I continue?
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to call Mr. Gagliotti to testify briefly. And I'll try. Mr. Gagliotti, you own various properties along Route 22 in Springfield, do you not?
Yes, we do.
And could you tell us about the parking and some of those others properties you own?
All right, a typical example is the Olive Garden complex, if you're familiar with that, and where we have Pier 1 and those stores. Now, we met the ordinance that exists today with the parking requirement. Now, if you go in the back parking lot, we have maybe 200 parking spaces with grass growing through them. In fact, we're going to try to go back and do an amended application to do something to build a building back there. They're useless. All we do is snowplow them because the retail condensed with all the uses never utilizes the amount of parking we got there. It's just wasted. And when we talk about this site that we're talking about, the school itself is probably I mean, if they use 10 cars, they'd be used a lot, because the kids are dropped off and picked up. And they can't get out of the building, it's all fenced off. And the area that's fenced off, which he's talking about, right from day one, I talked to the engineer and I said, these guys are nuts for not having an entrance from the back side of the building, because nobody's ever going to use that parking lot. Nobody's going to walk all the way around the Sky Zone and park in the back. The majority of it's going to be parking to the front and to the side. So the overflow parking, it almost was perfect for this use that we're putting into it.
I have no further questions.
Anybody have any questions?
At this time, I'd like to call Mr. Block, who is our planner. Mr. Block, you're a licensed planner of the state of New Jersey, and your license is in full force in effect?
Yes.
And could you give us a brief history of your educational background and your work history?
Yes, I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Buffalo in the field of planning, licensed professional planner in New Jersey, and certified member of the American Institute of Certified Planners, accepted as an expert witness across New Jersey zoning and planning boards, both as the board's planner and as the applicant's planner.
I would ask that the board, if they have no questions, accept Mr. Block as an expert witness. Are you familiar with the application?
Yes, I've reviewed the application, all of the plans and documents that were submitted, and the exhibits that have been presented.
And you're familiar with the zoning for the site and the various variances requested?
Yes, I've reviewed the zoning ordinance, the master plan documents for the town. The property is located in the HC Highway Commercial District, which runs the entire length of Route 22. Principal permitted uses in the HC zone include a variety of commercial uses, including retail sales and service stores and shops, business and professional office, banks and financial institution, wholesale businesses, medical offices, etc. So it's a very active commercial corridor along Route 22.
Do you have an opinion regarding this application?
Yes, we're seeking site plan approval along with one D variance and several C variances. The D variance is for the height of the building. The maximum height allowed in the HC zone is 40 feet, and the proposed building is 45.6 feet above average grade to the roof top, which is greater than 10% of the permitted height, so therefore D variance is required, a D6 variance. So if I go through the variance criteria quickly for the height variance, the courts have found in the Coventry Square case that if the use is permitted, which we have here, you're not required to present the positive criteria and the special reasons because the use is permitted. So we're really focusing on the negative criteria and what the detriments of the proposed variance would be on the neighborhood. So my opinion, there would be no substantial detriment to the public good. We're redeveloping the site that was a former motel. It's in a blighted condition, it's underutilized. I think we can all agree this is a much better use of the property than the motel that was there before. We're proposing a modern building, very nice modern architecture. The building is set back, as was testified, over almost 200 feet from the road. So you really don't get the effect of a taller building because it's set back so far. It really mitigates that impact of the taller building. And you heard testimony at the September meeting that the building height was really necessary for the basketball court and the swimming pool and all of the equipment that goes along with those facilities. So it was necessary to get that higher building height to fit those facilities in the building. We are requesting another variance for the parapet height. and I'll get into that in a little bit, but it makes the building look taller than it actually is, just because of that parapet in the front. As far as the substantial impairment of the zone plan and the zone ordinance, the proposed use is consistent with the zone plan for the highway commercial zone. It's a permitted use. It fits in well with the adjacent properties. Again, we're redeveloping a former use that's a blighting condition on the property, and will contribute to the tax base of the township. The proposed building height does not increase the intensity of the use, just the floor to ceiling height inside the building. We're still providing adequate, suitable light and air and open space on the property. The proposed use improves the visual aesthetics of the property compared to what's there. And we would be consistent with several purposes of the master plan and the municipal land use law. And specifically, goal number 3 of the land use plan states that the township should take advantage of redevelopment opportunities along the Route 22 corridor as new uses are proposed for underutilized sites, which we have that going on here. It also says sign pollution, landscaping deficiencies, and circulation problems should all be addressed as properties are redeveloped. In my opinion, and based on the testimony that's been provided, we are addressing all of those conditions. We're redeveloping the site with an improvement to the circulation and providing new landscaping and a visually appealing structure along the Route 22 corridor. We're requesting a number of C variances. The first is for lot coverage. The required coverage is 63%. The existing site is built at 70.3%, and we're proposing 88.3%. And that includes the building, all the parking areas, sidewalks, et cetera. And you heard the engineer testify that the parking lot will be pervious pavement, which means that the water will be allowed to infiltrate through the pavement into the ground. So that's really a benefit and offsets the request for the variance, mitigates any potential negative impact. The second C variance is for the number of parking spaces, where 261 spaces are required. We're proposing 135 on this property, and we're requesting a shared parking situation to allow for overflow parking on the adjacent property. We've heard testimony that there would be adequate parking at the peak times for the various uses. This is a good opportunity to provide a shared parking across the properties. And this is really, whenever you have an opportunity to have shared parking and cross access, it's really supported in planning principles. This is really a smart growth principle to provide cross access and cross parking. You can see on the exhibit,
It's A8, I believe.
A9. This is an aerial photo of the area. This photo was taken in 2015 by the state of New Jersey. But you can see there's a lot of parking in this area for all the different uses. So it's really a benefit to the town wherever you can to reduce the amount of parking fields that you have by allowing uses that have different operating times to share parking to really reduce the amount of coverage that you have throughout the town. The next variance that we're requesting is regarding the parapet wall. There's a section of the ordinance that allows parapet walls to be no more than 4 feet in height. This particular building, the highest point of the parapet is about 14 feet in the front. It steps down to about 7, 5, and then 2. So it's a variable height of the parapet wall. And this was done for screening of the rooftop equipment, the HVAC equipment, and the there was some other equipment that's up there. And also, to really, is for the visual aesthetics of the building, to make it look nicer. And then we have 4 variances regarding the signs. One is for the number of wall signs. We have 3 proposed wall signs where only 1 is allowed. We're requesting 1 on the front and 1 on each of the sides so that pedestrians and vehicles can navigate the site from Route 22 and from other parking areas on adjacent sites. So that's the intent of the additional signs. You've heard testimony that we believe the signs will be useful to provide wayfinding into the property from Route 22 and from other properties. One of the variances for the wall signs is for the height. The maximum is 5 feet and we're proposing 12 feet. As you can see on exhibits, this is exhibit A3 and exhibit A4. The signs on the wall, the wall signs are really in scale with the building. They don't look overly large as compared to the building, even though they're larger than allowed by the ordinance. I think once it's built, it'll really fit in with the building. And then 2 variances are for the freestanding sign. We are requesting a 196 square foot sign. It's 14 by 14. What the ordinance allows is 75 square feet, which is rather small for a major highway like this. I don't think you'll see many 75 square foot signs when you're traveling at 55, 60 miles an hour down this road. So it is consistent with, you saw on exhibit A8, it's consistent with, it's actually smaller than the existing signs on the motel sign and as well as the 24-hour fitness sign that was built on the neighboring property. So I don't believe there's any substantial detriment to that sign. I think this is needed to provide adequate notice for travelers to see the site and make the safe turn in. So essentially, I don't believe there's any substantial detriment to any of these C variances. I believe that we're promoting the purposes of the municipal land use law, and they essentially result in a better plan for the property than if we were required to comply with the ordinance.
I have nothing further.
Can you put the board back up that shows the aerial photo, please?
Sure.
And so this is an older one, but I just want to understand the way that the flow of this parking works. So on the right is where the daycare center is now. The right on the bottom, sort of adjacent to Diamond Road.
Yes.
Yes.
Right on Diamond Road, okay.
And the traffic is going to move from the 24-hour fitness. Would be to the east side into down to, and that's
correct.
And this is an area. Where's the front of that building? It's on Diamond Road.
The property on lot 9.
Yeah.
Lot 8. That's
Lot 8.
yes.
Is on the other side. It's on the east side.
I think, Paul, you show them the building we demolished on Lot 8.
This was a 30,000 square foot office building with an elevator.
That's the front part.
That's where we're putting the 13,000 square foot.
Right.
We eliminated 30,000, we're putting 13. We knocked that down.
Show them where.
This building, well, we originally were going to renovate it, but when we started to renovate the building, it doesn't work. You know, you still got just an old building, you know, with a new look. So we demolished this whole building.
And where is the Sky Zone entrance?
Sky Zone entrance is right here. We wanted to put it back here, so we utilized this parking back here. But they didn't want it. They wanted their entrance. They have a main entrance If anybody's visited a Sky Zone, they kind of control the flow. When you come in and they tell you which way you're going, so they only wanted one main entrance. They decided that they wanted it here. So all this parking that we have here kind of got, you know, eliminated.
And where's Kitty Academy? Is in
Kitty
front of
Academy is right here in the new building. They're 10,000 square feet. And that's got a fence all the way around it. I don't know if anybody's visited the site, but it's got, you know, and the most cars there that would ever stay are 6 to 8 cars, maybe 10, if that. Mostly drop off and pick up. They're probably one of the best tenants you could get for a location if parking is any kind of a problem, because they don't create a parking problem. Then this was the motel. These were the motel buildings here that we demolished. And then the entrance that we're going to put here is going to the overflow parking onto this site.
And there's going to there'll be signage directing to the additional parking. So
Yes. And while I don't know if this is the time to bring it up, but I would like to ask for 2 other variances, and that's for the entrance and exit sign that they proposed would work well in the front of this building. So while we're looking for sign variances, I think we might need a sign variance for the entrance and the exit.
You'll show an entranceway and an exit way?
Right.
What kind of sign you talking about?
What the planner had suggested.
A small monument sign just saying entrance and exit, you know, they're small, but the monument sign would stand out better.
We need a variance for that, don't we?
Technically you
Or
do.
is it under the height requirement?
I'm not sure if you need a variance for it or not, but.
It's not that different from having a stop sign or a, you know, a circulation sign, so it's not really an identification sign like you would put on a building, so it's,
Right.
I don't know whether a variance is appropriate, but if you need one, but.
You could add to the variance, but
We need to find out.
it would be contingent upon approval by the engineer and by Michaels, so that also. Normally, just a monument sign, it's an entrance, you know, and it's a backlit sign that says, not just a illuminated, we want a backlit sign.
That'll be good.
So at night it's shown. It doesn't have to identify the exact, because I think the pylon sign would identify the entrance. So the exit sign just says one way, do not, you know, it could say exit.
No, I understand what you're saying.
But instead of just an ugly sign, metal sign, you can make a small monument sign. That's backlit.
Okay. I'm sorry. Any other questions?
Not at this time. Do our professionals have any other questions?
Thank you.
Is there anybody from the public that would like to be heard on this matter? You know, I don't think we really finalized
I still have a problem with that.
the sign.
Okay, so to be clear, if you're looking at the architectural drawings that were submitted on drawing A1, that's where we're showing the proposed signs.
Number 4.
The pylon sign is detail number 4. That sign is shown to be 27 feet in height. The permitted height of the pylon is 22 feet. The maximum sign area that's permitted under our ordinance for a pylon sign would be 75 feet. What we have proposed is 14 feet by 14 feet, which would be 196 square feet. These are based on corporate standards. Now, again, to eliminate one variance, quite simply, if we reduce the height of the sign to conform at 22 feet, I don't think we would have any objection to that. The way it's set now, or proposed now, we'd have a clear visible area under the sign of 13 feet. If we were to reduce that sign to the height to comply with the ordinance, there'd be 8 feet below the sign.
All right, but what about taking that and just utilizing that? I think you said earlier that that would be 96 square feet, which is a lot closer to our 75, what our ordinance states, and it's a far cry from 196.
Just a little more work for the sign to be fabricated, to fabricate an odd-shaped oval. That's
Well, you
that's
can
all.
fabricate odd-shaped ovals for the signs
these.
on the buildings.
So-
It's just another sign.
Just another sign. I don't know that we would have an objection to that.
Because I remember our conversation back in September, and I had asked you, and you were going to go back to corporate to see if
Correct.
that was possible.
Correct.
How much difference is it?
100 feet. 100 square feet is the perimeter, The logo itself, the oval itself, that has the words 24-hour fitness is 96 square feet at that same proportion.
Basically, it's wasted space. That's what the outside is.
It is lit, yes.
Do we have a big issue with 22 feet, 27 feet versus 22 feet? Other than it's 5 more feet.
We don't, but the fact of moving that sign further to the east, it's going to be, you're gaining visibility, so I don't think the variance is maybe as important to be 27 feet. Bringing it down to 22 feet, I think, is
With the square footage of the sign at 96 or 94, whatever that was.
Like a combination of the two. I mean, lowering it to 22 feet, then you're eliminating a variance completely, and then you suggested you're going to get the other variance a little closer to
conforming.
All right, we'll do it that way.
We don't have an objection.
Just to be, is it I'm sorry, just so much has been going on. Is it 96 or 94 feet?
96 feet.
96. Okay, so 22 feet height, 96 for the actual sign itself.
96 square feet in area, yes.
The oval, the oval.
Correct.
As I said, I think that other stuff is just wasted space, and it's blocks the view. Why
Okay, we have no problem.
You know, at the end of the day, the parking becomes your headache, not ours. If your clients don't have enough parking, that's their problem, it's not ours. You know, so that's something that you'll deal with, not us. I mean, I personally think that the building will be a nice building. I don't think that's a real problem. Anybody have any final questions?
Let's ask, just one last one here, is that?
Take your time, no problem.
Thank you. Just can you point out here where the Sky Zone parking would be?
Okay. The Sky Zone building is about the same shape and proportion of what you see here for the building that was knocked down. There's a large volume and then a narrower volume. The large volume, now again, this is the building that's knocked down, but again, the new building that's constructed is somewhat similar in shape. The large rectangular volume here in the front is what's occupied by Sky Zone. The smaller volume, actually Sky Zone crosses into the smaller volume, and then the tail, 10,000 square feet of that building, of what I believe is about a 56,000 square foot building, is Kiddie Academy. Kiddie Academy is completely bordered with secured fence. The Sky Zone facility has only emergency exits and loading doors that open onto the westbound side. Sky Zone's entrance is tucked away in a corner right about here in the front of the building, and the entrance to Kiddie Academy is here. So these tenants will inevitably gravitate toward the parking, which is along the stream and the buffer. It's, unless you're looking for exercise, you wouldn't want to park here. And if you want exercise, you can go to the gym next door.
So I hate to belabor the parking point, but I would be remiss if I didn't say I'm a little concerned. The 13,000 square foot building that I actually originally thought was the Kiddie Academy, is that parking, is that lot 8? Is that included
That's part of lot 8.
in the variance?
Lot 8 is that one big lot. Used to be lot 7 and 8, but early on it was combined into lot 8 that contains that building where Sky Zone is and the front building that's 13,500 square. It's all on one lot.
The 13,000 square foot building is in this general area right up close to the highway. It has parking in front of it for those tenants, and it has additional parking directly behind and off to the side.
So the 242 spaces, the 244 that your application in for 242, that is inclusive of the 3 uses?
That's inclusive of lot 8, all the parking on lot 8, yes. Yes. 242 as included.
But the office building, we presume, is not being utilized on the weekend?
Oh, it's been removed.
gone.
It's been removed.
Oh, it's removed.
It's
It's
been
only
removed. There's a
parking?
brand new building under construction now at 13,000 square feet,
Oh,
and
I'm
the
sorry,
front
the
portion of this
13,500 square foot
is in
building
that
will
lot.
exist. Sorry.
Yes.
There will be a 13,500
Correct.
square foot building there.
That's
So there are
correct.
3 uses for the 240, what will be maybe 242 parking spots.
Correct.
And how many spots? You have 74 on the west side, and the front of the Sky Zone has how many? Does anyone, how many parking spots?
The number? The 240 minus 70.
70.
Right. 170. Okay.
172. Where, okay, and where Ms. Dolan stated that 200 at peak, if I'm not mistaken, would be, was it 200?
200 for,
The Sky Zone.
no.
I'm sorry.
Only about 70 spaces. They require about 2 spaces for every 1,000 square feet. So it's about 70 for the size of the building that Sky Zone occupies. Their maximum is 70.
Right. Didn't, I'm sorry, because I thought you had testified that there was a study done that at peak, the maximum for the Sky Zone.
Gym, for the gym, 200.
No, I think she had said
The gym.
I definitely said the Institute of Transportation Engineers would recommend about 200 for the gym.
Okay.
Versus the 254 that your ordinance recommends.
Okay.
That I did testify to. So that ITE standards, based on their studies, have shown that gyms don't require the 254 that your ordinance wants to provide, but a little bit less. So the deficit, I think my math came out to about 65 missing spaces, and we have those 74 on the west side of the Kiddie Academy and Sky Zone building. So that was sort of the space that could be readily used for any additional health club parking demand.
Okay. And at peak for Sky Zone, was there testimony on?
I had said there was a study that McDonough and Ray had performed. They're another traffic engineering group in New Jersey. They had gone to, I think it's called Rebounders in Edison, and they got about 2 spaces per 1,000 required at max on a Saturday afternoon. So that's half of the shopping center demand. We're talking about 4 per 1,000 for shopping centers, and these indoor trampoline facilities are about 2 per 1,000, so it's half the retail demand.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
I just have a question.
Sure.
I'm getting, based on the testimony and the, about the different tenants and the amount of parking, I feel, comfortable in that. What I'm uncomfortable with is if another tenant comes in there, and I don't know if there's a way for us to say that if another tenant comes in, that they have to appear before us as a part of a resolution.
Number one, that's speculation. And I don't think we're dealing in speculation with this application. We're here presenting an application before you. If down the road things change, other tenants come in and they have different uses, we would have to come before the board to ask for amended preliminary and final site plan approval. That would be our requirement.
That's really what it boils down to.
Just briefly, I talked to Arthur. He mentioned that, I guess, if the zoning officer, if a new use comes in, if they come to the zoning officer, if he has, talks to Bob Michaels and says, hey, the new use is a retail center, Bob will say, well, they don't have enough parking, and the zoning officer would reject that application and make them come back before the board. As long as there's good communication between the zoning officer and the planner, you normally don't have that problem.
Anyone else? Okay. Subject to a small laundry list, I think we can ask for a motion to approve application 2017-16 for RPG LLC, 75 Route 22 East, Block 3801, Lot 6. It's a preliminary and final site plan variance with 2 bulk variances, a D6 variance for the building height for a new health club. Subject to, the pylon sign will be 22 feet in height and 96 square feet. The pylon sign will be moved to what hopefully will be formerly the entrance, which will be the exit, so it'll be.
No, that'll be the entrance.
It's gonna be, right.
It's going to be the entrance.
It's gonna be that way, all right?
Entrance will be east of the.
Correct, correct, all right. That the DOT approves the change in the entrances and exits. Monument signs at the exit entrance, subject to any conditions that the town may have in terms of an ordinance, a variance, whichever. The multiple signs on the building. Lighting has to be added as per engineering. Landscaping has to be added as per engineering. You have to comply with the Keller Kirkpatrick comments and issues in the November 29th, 2017 letter, as well as the letter from Bob Michaels, the board planner, which is dated September 15th, 2017. Have I missed anything?
Was the fence in either of your letters?
Well, the fence is in your letter. I thought it was in your letter. It talks about.
I recommend,
Okay, and the fence, I know there was comments about the fence already, whether it's already been replaced or whether it's gonna be replaced.
I think the owner testified that it was replaced.
Gonna be replaced.
Yeah, I knew there was commentary regarding that, so that's gonna be.
it is in our letter saying it should be replaced, so.
Right, I thought so, which is kind of the catch-all for the minutia and so forth, all right? So, based on those conditions and so forth,
I just would ask that you include my application for the preliminary and final amendment.
yes.
For Lot 8.
For the 4 spots?
For the four spots,
four
that's to be included as well, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Have we caught everything?
I think so.
All right, so with that being said, is there a motion to approve the application?
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
And we have a roll call.
Mr. Hochstein,
Yes.
Mr. Monaco,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. Schnarr,
Yes.
Mr. Roth,
Yes.
and Chairman Fonseca.
Yes.
Motion approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I just like to, my client intends to proceed before the resolution is adopted. He understands it's at his own risk.
That's fine, he can waive right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck with the property.
May I ask one question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would like some advice from the board attorney as to whether COA applies to this application, because the township is requested this information now. From every decision relates to new buildings, whether it's residential or commercial.
Then yes.
I don't think it applies to recreation. I think the statute exempts recreational.
Can you speak to the microphone, please, so we can hear it?
I believe the statute, the non-residential statute exempts buildings that provide for activities such as this. I'd have to look up the statute, but I believe that's,
Well, we can confirm that tomorrow.
yes, we can do that.
If that works.
Okay. I would like to request that if the end result is that they are required, that this should be a condition in the resolution.
Does the applicant have any issue with that if it is required?
It's required, it's required.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I'll be in touch tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
What? Yeah.
Hmm?
Yeah. Sorry. No, it's not, it's, I got that.
No, it's gonna be quick.
Yeah, yeah. I have to pick my wife.
You lost your...
We're fine. No, we're fine.
What did you say? What were you asking? I didn't
Yeah,
hear
but-
what you were asking.
That. Beans, these. These, like the YMCA.
Where there's like beds.
Come on.
Bullshit. It's a revenue grant.
From the state?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. You know that's Okay, so that's not,
We have another application.
Good luck.
Okay, we have our last application is 2017-18, H. Ryan Freundlich, 987 Chimney Ridge Road, Block 3305, Lot 3. That's for a front yard variance, expanding a front portico. Please come forward.
Sorry about the, setting. My paperwork said 7:30, and the newspaper article that I sent out to about 30 people said 7:30. So I plan on getting here at 7 o'clock.
Okay, sir, will you raise your right hand? I'm going to swear you in. Do you swear testimony you're about to give and any evidence you present to the board is the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yeah.
Okay, please state your name for the record, spelling your last name.
F like Frank, R-E-U, N like Nancy, D like David, L-I-C-H.
Thank you. And your address, sir?
987 Chimney Ridge Drive in Springfield.
Tell us what you want to do.
So I'm looking to build a porch on my front, for the front of my house, for the winter, snow and stuff on the roof to come down when people are standing at the door waiting for someone to arrive. Also, it's a long walk from the street to my front door, so we were hoping to have 2 chairs on the porch, so my family members could actually sit down while they're waiting for someone to answer the door, a place to sit, and also protection from the snow.
Did somebody on your block just recently do what you're requesting?
I just moved in, so I'm not sure. There's a bunch of houses that have what I have. It's
Didn't we have an application?
We did.
June, August, for basically the same thing?
Yeah, our ordinance was revised so that if they are enclosing an existing portico without changes of the size, then they can get a zoning permit and they can do it. But he is doing more than that. He is expanding on the size of the portico to allow for room to put the chair so the family member can rest. And because it is
Sideways to fit the
correct,
chairs.
and because it is expanding on the size, they are increasing the nonconformity, and they are also in the front yard setback, so they need a variance.
Okay.
I absolutely have no issues with it. I would approve it if I could, but unfortunately, the ordinance does not allow me to, so they have to go for a variance.
You're just gonna make it look like the rest of the house. It's gonna look like.
everything else in the neighborhood.
I have a question. You have a little, according to your survey, there's a little piece that comes out already. What is that on your survey? It looks like there's a little piece that comes out that you were going to align with in some way. What's inside there? Is that a vestibule or a hallway?
No, it's just the front door. I want a porch to be there, but there's nothing there right now.
So
It's
you
probably a step.
Yeah, there's steps. There's a step, the walkway, a step, front door.
It's hard to tell because you drew all over the survey, so it's really. How wide is it? Is it just going to line with
No,
there?
right now it's about this wide, and we want it to be about like this wide.
Well, I think you have it on the application. I
It's
think.
really unclear to me, like, any dimensions or width, maybe?
No, I have, you have written dimensions somewhere. I believe you wanted 6 feet,
I know it's 5
right?
feet out.
Right. And what's the width?
That's what I couldn't figure out.
I would say not to exceed 8 feet.
Yeah, it was 8 feet, I believe.
8 feet.
Yeah, 8 feet.
Is it just gonna be raw framing, or is it gonna match the house? What is it going
Oh,
to
no,
be?
it's gonna match the house. We're gonna have the same siding that we have on the house, on the actual porch, and there's gonna be 2 pillars.
Okay.
The 2 pillars are the same size. And a roof. It's gonna be the same roof.
So it's 6 by 8.
6 by 8.
There's 5 by 8 on his, one of his drawings, it comes out 5.
I know, but he has a detail here, and it shows 6 by 8, so.
No, in the, it's
Oh, I'm sorry, 5 by 8.
5 by 8.
It says 5 by 8.
5 by 8.
Come on, Sam, 5 by 8.
Thank you.
Good luck.
All glasses.
So it's 5 by 8.
Yes. 5 by 8.
It's a little rudimentary.
Yeah.
Which is really insignificant change.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions from our board? Is there anybody from the public that would like to be heard on this? Okay. I think we can go ahead and approve your application, 2017-18, 987 Chimney Ridge Road, Block 3305, Lot 3, for a front yard variance, expanding your front portico. Is there someone that would like to make a a motion to approve that?
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
May we have a roll call?
Sure.
Can I waive my right to wait for the?
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold
We haven't
on.
approved it yet.
Get ahead of yourself.
You haven't got approved yet.
We're not done yet.
What if we all vote now?
Mr. Roth,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. Schnur,
Yeah.
Mr. Monaco,
Yes.
Mr. Hochstein,
Yes.
and Chairman Fonseca.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, now, if you'd like, you can waive right of resolution. You do so at your own risk, but you'll be able to start sooner. Is that something you'd like to do?
Yes, because of the weather.
Okay. See Sam at the engineering department.
Beautiful.
He's gonna waive his right of resolution. Okay. That concludes that. Now I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn. I'd like to wish everybody a happy holiday, and it's been a quick year, that's for darn sure.
Yeah, I really want to wish everybody happy holiday. I want to thank everybody for their hard work.
Absolutely,
You put everything
absolutely.
into it, and we appreciate it. Jennifer Loss, very sorry she couldn't be here. She's, as you know, she's sick, but she's getting better. She's home, so she would love to hear from you. If you want to text her, call her, she would love to hear
If
from
she's
you.
watching us now, hello.
No, I'm pretty certain she's asleep, so, but thank you very much, and Happy New Year and Happy Holidays. Thank you.
All right.
Happy holidays, everybody. All right, take care. Successful
It was a
year.
good year. It was a
Yes,
good
thank you
year.
very much.
We didn't get sick.
The year's not over yet.
Good point, knock on wood. I hope I didn't jinx us. I didn't jinx us, yeah.
No, and of course, that was a concern a couple times.
So I asked that.
My year's over.
I don't see how it goes. I figured, you know, if Sam had a concern, let's look at it.
But, you know, something,
Let Sam know.
double check.